So the way I'm kind of designing the sessions is that I'll introduce a topic, we'll talk about some vocabulary, some kind of key ideas, and after that topic, I'll introduce 2 to 3 pieces of data or research, and that's just to kind of give some context to whatever the topic is on that particular session. And today, of course, is AI and kind of a general introduction and overview. But I think even within this introduction, you'll start seeing themes even connected to what you're working on. And so, I'm hoping that every session will be half kind of like getting and seeing some things maybe you hadn't seen before, but at the same time, having like a new thought, like, boy, I didn't think of it that way, or I didn't know what that term was. Now I do. Now I can kind of go forward, and I kind of, if I'm looking for something else, I know where to kind of how to look for it. And so I'll introduce 3 pieces of research. I'll have some assessment and discussion questions. So these, I might just throw out. They're not like essential for anyone who participates in the session to kind of complete at all, but they are conversation starters. I'll go through them. They're just to kind of get you to think about the things that, we're talking about, how we're talking about them. And then I'll go into some key concepts, skills, practices, and knowledge. So basically, what are some essential key concepts and related, like some of the stuff you were talking to around assessing, student learning, different ways with special education. Definitely like kind of, we get into that a little bit even within some of these resources. So key concepts, and then I'm always going to also introduce some skills. Now, in this session, the skills are going to definitely be related much more to instructional practices. But what I hope to do is that also expand those skills into actual like knowledge of different software. So where I'll be a little lighter on ChatGPT and maybe some of the image creation software, but that's definitely as we kind of move through. I'm definitely open if you have questions that you think I can answer related to those. I can help with those, but also, I'll always be trying to build in the bridge between what teachers are doing in the classroom to the availability of the tool and what it can do for you. And also make you aware of how software is changing to support the use of AI, which is a big part of this too, as you'll kind of see as we go through. So skills, practices, and supports, some potential knowledges and action steps related to the topic, goal setting and application questions. And those are really like, after a session, what's my takeaway, and all of this is designed as I have this model that I've kind of put together. I'm going to do it with I'm going to do it with AI. We're going to do it with VR. We're going to do it with digital equity and cybersecurity. So every Thursday, I'm going to have this time. So you can actually bundle the sessions any way you want. Yeah. So we'll do some practices, and then there's the trends, adaptive learning platforms, and analytics. And then how does this impact how people teach with technology? So impacts on digital pedagogy, shifting towards more personalized learning, enhanced student engagement through interactive models. And then, when we start to talk about data analysis in education, where do we stand with using AI to help us do that? And then related to college and career, students, and just talking a little bit about the integrated workforce, enhancing critical thinking, specifically as a career skill. And then these final parts of this document is essentially measurement and application. So, after looking at these items, how do we, I use ChatGPT a lot, is taking something that I know I wouldn't think of it that way, or streamlining something that is either written better or written a little bit differently than maybe I would have written it. So for example, I just took a piece of text that had a few bullet points, and it talked vaguely about a topic. And I said, please write this more concisely with some bullets. And it did an okay job, but I actually realized I didn't like the bullet. And so I actually said it did another version without the bullets, and it was so much better that I just kept repeating that prompt. So just, find a flow with your prompts. And sometimes, and what I would do too is if you find yourself using the prompts a lot, copy and paste the prompt onto a Google Doc too, because I've had some situations with ChatGPT where I've lost the prompt. And then I found some of my best prompts I've lost. And what happens is it kind of frustrating because you find that it's like a process. You'll start off in one place and you'll say, create an activity for this reading. and you'll paste in what you get, and it will give you like, oh, that's a really good activity. And then you'll say, well, write this activity so that it incorporates maybe a very specific standard. And then it'll give me that. And then I'll ask maybe one more thing is like, oh, could you just make that written for like a 3rd grade reading level? Sometimes it's very easy, I think, to forget if you keep prompting. And then, the more and you probably know this from your experience, the more you give ChatGPT, the better response you're going to get. The more specific. Yes and no, I will say between the versions, I do pay for the premium. And I do notice a little bit, like, I'll be honest, like in the 3.5 version, I put the same prompt in both versions, but I was watching a YouTuber who was using it to write some scripts, and he was going really deep with his prompts, and he did the same thing, like, please be. And so I felt better after I saw him doing it. I was like, I'm not the only one. I don't know why I do it. I mean, whenever I'm very direct with it, I don't think I get a different response, but maybe a more polite one back. And there's some free extensions that allow it to speak to you, which can be good and very annoying. It's annoying when you run a really long prompt and then you realize you left it on and then it's speaking back to you. But I've had I could definitely do like a session dedicated to ChatGPT for one of the upcoming professional development days. And I'm just at the point where I don't know if that's like what people want or time to do, but I definitely think I made a video about just like purposes like that, in the fall. I'm also a person, and you might be like this too, where I'm more satisfied the AI actually sitting down and thinking about what I want to ask it than I am about the time spent writing it. Like even today I did a prompt where I basically said, please write for me. My email draft for the professional development. Like I was stuck in a rock and a hard place a little bit. Like I knew we didn't have the PDPs set up yet, but I know they're coming and they're not in. But then I wanted to let people know I'm starting and I didn't want to delay. So I was like, let me get this together. And I'm like, I had these 3 or 4 things that I knew I needed to include, but how do I do it quickly and efficiently without feeling like I'm laboring over each bullet?
Right.
And so I asked ChatGPT, which was good. And then I was able to like take 3 or 4 things out and then put in the things that I wanted. And just seeing it like sometimes really helps you, And also when we did an AI session in the fall at the beginning of the school year, I had a special ed teacher who had never used ChatGPT before, but definitely found a huge benefit in actually requesting an entire lesson at a specific grade level and got it kind of generated right there and was just like amazed, was like kind of teacher wise was already in that headspace where like, this is what I really need. If I could get like, I think that's where, really good teaching starts happening is like, what you want and you want to get to that point as quick as possible, but then you also want to fine tune as quick as possible. And that's the part I really like about it. I love being able to fine tune. Like I actually write job descriptions in there. And then I say like, if this was I'll give an example. I did a career avatar project for a college student, and they struggle with the college students actually struggle with writing their own resume, honestly, and identifying like the keywords and terms they want to add to their resume. And part of their struggle is I feel like they can't get out of their own way. They either feel like they don't have a lot of experience, so I actually used AI and I generated 30 different avatars, essentially names with career experience at a certain level in age. And I let them pick a person and they had to identify how that person would upgrade their particular background in order to get the next job they want. Their own headspace, like, hey, you're not 21, you're 35, working on your resume is still important, who knows what the future holds, like you need to like think about, and it's just those abilities to like get that idea together really, really quickly. And my head's been a lot in AI since middle of the summer. I kept seeing it. I'm like, but I've been head first in it. And actually over the week, well, it wasn't really over the weekend, but I was prepping for this a little bit, but I'm also doing my own work with it. and I came across a tool that I'll show you probably in one of the next sessions that actually, or I can email it to you. I might put it in the newsletter, but it's actually a tool that lets you take your AI generated text and make it non-detectable. I came across 2 or 3 tools over the weekend, helps protect you as a consumer, and it does a bunch of consumer research for you. And then it has like 101 tools. It's like every AI tool and what you would use it for, like a website. So I'm going to do deeper dives into those tools. I just haven't had the chance to kind of curate the list. I have another also free AI tool. I think it's Plexi that I used actually when, I want to say Plexi, but I think I'll find it for you. I was using an AI tool. I'll curate a list based on this session, but I was using it. It was basically a ChatGPT free version. And what I liked about it was it actually gave me the sources and it gave me articles related to my searches, which in the early versions of ChatGPT, and I think even the free version still doesn't do that. So it actually for free gives you the sources, and it does a great job with the AI too. So I'll share that together. I'll put that list together. And what I liked about that is, on the paid version, the difference between the paid version and the free version of ChatGPT and between the 3 and 5 is really the use of the add-ons. So on the paid version, I essentially use 2 or 3 add-ons. One is called Web Trends. And what that does is when you search, this is for the $20 a month version, add on this add-on called Web Trends. And what Web Trends does is you basically have to include the name in the search and keep the add-on added. And actually I can show you. So this, can you see my ChatGPT screen? So the difference, you'll see you have 3, 5, and 4. In the 4, they've kind of made it hidden, but let's say I go down to the search and I'll say using web trends. Let's see, please identify the top 5 special education software using AI. Okay, now you see I was saying doing the research with Bing means that it's using that Web Trends plugin. And what the Web Trends plugin does is it actually looks for trends on the web. So I use that one. So this week changed their whole interface right here. You see that if you can. So, and they're also giving you the trending stuff, image generator, consensus, your AI research. So they're going heavy into the research driven stuff. Connecting with Canva. This interface just changed like 3 days ago. This is new too. This is the create and configure. You can make a creative. I have not used that yet, so I'll just go back, but you can explore the GPTs. I've added this feature. You can talk to ChatGPT. That's an extension, a Chrome extension. But the add-ons, let me show you where the add-ons are. Script. So I'll show you a demo of it. Maybe it'll pop up. Vox Script. Now what Vox Script would do is it would scrape the web as well. Vox Script was really trendy over the last couple of months because it was one of the more powerful add-ons. By the top 5 special ed tech tools. This is still using the Web Trends. Yeah, everything's going very quickly. So the difference here is you'll see that they have like these little icons, and these are the article links. For example, the 10 best AI tools in education. That's with these little highlighted ones here. So you'll see so this has like Gradescope, Fetchy, Cogni. So that what you're getting is based on a web search of scraping the web. It's not just like what the AI engine knows. I'm just still kind of curious why I don't know how to add my settings in beta, my plan, my custom instructions. Let's see. Yeah. So that it allows you to build a profile. So if you have specific parts of things you want in your profile based on your search, you can add it. And to say, I'm a special education teacher for grades K through 5, it will take that into consideration into your searches. And just so you know, there's also a lot of extensions which run. I know this is becoming like a big ChatGPT thing here, but there's a lot of extensions. Like this is the ChatGPT summary tool. There's a lot of extensions that when you add them to Chrome become add-ons which run through ChatGPT. So there's a lot of software, a deep dive into digital equity, but then I'm saying, can you focus on more of the research, things like that. And then give, what are some top level articles, but it's how you learn, it's how you grow. You just have to remember like how it's being generated for you, right? Like all of that. So let me get into some of the links, because just to kind of give you a little overview of the doc of today, and then I'll share out. All right. So on the doc, the very first link, AI is transforming education. I'm just going to kind of hop between a couple of them, but then I'll kind of do a little deep dive into the research ones, because I think those will be the ones that like I'm hoping will like kind of spur thought a little bit. So this one is basically like just a generic overview. Wasn't sure who might attend today. How AI will transform teaching and learning. Let's get it right. Now, if you get a chance to, if you want to do a really deep dive, this talk from Stanford on personalizing learning with AI is available on YouTube, and it's like a multi-hour talk, but all of the people and topics that are in this article are actually in that video. It's a very interesting presentation from professors and other AI experts at Stanford. Industry leaders talk about how AI is going to transform education. And I think it was probably middle of last year. So it's very, very new content, very high level discussion, but at the same time, really talking about it from a really high level perspective. They had a big summit in California. And this was also when ChatGPT was also taking off. Let me share this tab. So on this document, AI will transform teaching and learning. Let's get it right. From the summit in Stanford, and they had the Stanford Institute for Human-Centered AI began planning the inaugural AI in Education Summits. Videos of the different speakers. So like, even if you want to just check out one or two of them, kind of like right when ChatGPT was coming out and getting, 1 million users and people were really diving in. So they were talking about, I've reached more than 100 million users, 30% of all college students were using it. So they really saw the need to kind of have this big AI summit at Stanford, and they had the dean of the School of Education. Why I included this document was it has this really good first look at AI's potential, and it talks, of course, about post-teaching feedback, refreshing expertise, changing what is important for learners, enabling learning without fear of judgment, improving learner and assessment qualities. So these are all kind of topics that kind of came from these high-level speakers. Advances exacerbate in a motivation crisis. AI fitting in education. And just as a kind of like a precursor, one thing that I knew a lot of educators kind of don't necessarily know right off the bat is like the differences in AI. That's something that I've tried to put into other AI stuff that I've created, is the difference between AI, machine learning, generative AI. And I also put in the term for this session, personalized learning. Yeah. Essentially, AI is machine intelligence, like it functions on its own, but it really functions with what you provide it. Generative AI probably be listed second here, but that is the AI that utilizes the continual kind of feeding of information and including that information into its database to create new types of products. And machine learning is when you basically take this generative AI and you have it basically within a workflow or a process that creates a new type of, or improves a process of doing something. Continued transition from, artificial intelligence is basically intelligence which is, kind of brought together, and then it is what it is. It's what you provide it. And then generative AI is AI that you continue to input the intelligence and it gets smarter. And then as it gets smarter, you can then create more machine learning opportunities through increasing that intelligence of the AI. So say you're building bottle caps, and you're making bottle caps at the company, and then you learn, all right, after we make 1,000 bottle caps, the people who are placing the bottle caps in the jars get tired every 2 hours. We're learning that because, maybe they start to shuffle their feet too much, and we have a mat on the floor that senses that. So maybe we need to like adjust, the amount of hours they're on the floor. Basically we keep making processes more efficient and faster in all sorts of engineering, all sorts of ways in the world, because we now have that kind of real-time data collection. And then I included personalized learning because there's definitely like a reinvigoration of personalized learning with AI now that we have this kind of student-centered learning environment. And there's two resources that I'll I'll put together too. Google has a great video series on machine learning that I'll share that just kind of gives like an overview and a snapshot of how it works. And there's a professor from Cambridge that does a great speech on the student-centered classroom as it relates to Bloom in AI. Which is really interesting. She creates the comparison that AI now has made our classroom so student-centered that it's kind of like what Bloom envisioned with his Bloom's taxonomy vision. But there's also concerns with that, which we'll kind of see as we get through these resources. So that second resource is really this is from the Office of Educational Technology. This is basically they've kind of provided this overview, basically a description of AI, endorsing it for education, really, ultimately. And also talking about how we're already using it in our everyday lives. I think the interesting thing on this page is not only they do a featured publication. If you're interested, the Artificial Intelligence, the Future of Teaching and Learning, kind of provides like, these key insights around the new forms of interaction in the classroom, ability in student learning,